Hello, and a very warm welcome to the Sacred Womb podcast, where we talk about all things to do with befriending our menstrual cycle, deeply healing both our feminine and masculine aspects, and how we can indeed utilise our cyclical nature as a natural spiritual pathway that's encoded within our bodies. I'm your host, Melanie Swan, and you can also go to thesacredwomb.com for more information and loads of fantastic free resources. Hi there, and welcome back to the Sacred Womb podcast. This is episode 14. Should I bleed with the full or new moon? I've given it this title because that is a question I get asked very frequently. And so I'm going to really go in depth into that today. And as usual, I'll give you an exercise to do at the end to help you implement this in your life. Firstly, I wanted to thank you for your feedback about the last podcast, episode 13 and the supermoon, and to ask you how you're feeling after the supermoon. We've been having some input in the Sacred Womb private Facebook group about how everyone's doing, and I wanted to just briefly share my experience and then add my perspective to our very brief perspective to our current state collectively, because I think quite a few of us are getting a little caught up in drama and fight, so I just wanted to speak about that a little bit. So post supermoon anyway, I'm feeling very soft and relaxed, and I'm just slipping into moon time as well. So I'm feeling very silky and quiet and inward. So a great time really to talk about bleeding in tune with the moon cycles, because I feel very in touch with that at the moment. So on the supermoon I experienced a lot of charge coming out of my body as I really honed in on one particular thing that I was struggling with, and that's my relationship with my mother. The holiday season is kind of bringing that up, which is fantastic, and I realised I got all this charge held in my body about that. So I got some help with that, and someone very experienced asked me a very pertinent question, and it was able to dislodge some charge, which was fantastic. I was shaking a little bit, and there were some tears, and then post that, I feel clearer. I can really feel that there's more layers coming with that particular aspect of my life. But I'm feeling good, very silky, and enjoying my first blood. So I know a lot of people have had a bit of a surge in energy since the supermoon and certainly the US election, and have had a strong reaction to that and feel a kind of renewed sense of power in a way, or purpose, which is fantastic. And I just wanted to have a side note on that really, as to when a new energy comes in, as to when we experience a renewal or a surge. I think we've got to be really careful actually that we don't waste that and go into action too early and sort of start splurging about it and go into a fight of some sort. Now this fight might be quite subtle, but if we think we're fighting against something, then we've got to have a winner and loser, and it doesn't really go well for us. If we're in a fight, all of us lose at some point. So also, if we click into fight, even if it's quite a subtle level, that's going to activate our adrenal glands, and we really don't want to be burnt out. If we use them, we live on our adrenals, we run on them, then we're going to cause ourselves health problems and actually knock our cycles out. So when we feel an increase in power or purpose, I would, my way of working with that is to just hold that power like you're holding a horse. You're working with a horse. And the horse might want to bolt, it might want to run towards something, it might want to do something, it might want to crusade, it might want to fight, it might just want to run. I'd really encourage you to just hold that back and sit with it and wait for the right action, the right feeling to come, because when we get a new input of energy, the energy teaches us anyway. So if you are feeling like you're embodying a new, or I've seen some people saying they feel a bit like an upgraded energy, upgraded vibe of some sort, then from my experience, there's no need to try and do something with it. In fact, it's really best to ground ourselves first, and for that to be our primary focus, and not get caught up in any projected dramas or fights going on around us and in the media. And I really emphasize projected dramas and fights, because all that stuff is going on within us, and we read into our outside world what's going on internally. So I think it's really best to ground ourselves and focus on what our environment, which we have co-created, is triggering within us, and how that can help us, and just stay as centered as possible. I mean, we're going to get knocked off. That's life. That's how we learn. That's fair enough. But just stay with what our triggers are, and use this time to clear some more fear-based stuff, so that we can choose what we do in the world free of fear. Now we come to, should I be bleeding in tune with the full moon, or the dark moon, or the new moon? Okay, first things first, let's dump the word should. We really have been conditioning each other with rules for so long, and subsequently we've become estranged with looking to our own womb for answers, and then importantly trusting those answers, and then taking any aligned action that comes with that. So I've said this every podcast so far, and I am really going to keep saying it. I like saying it. My womb responds. I wonder if your womb responds when I say it. The womb has a consciousness of its own. I'll say it again and just see how your womb responds. The womb has a consciousness of its own. And I say it as in the womb has a consciousness of its own. It I'm referring to because the womb surprisingly doesn't have a gender. So sure, the dark unknown is the feminine aspect of creation. And when we get our true masculine energy back, the sacred womb unites with its counterpart, activates and becomes an independent vessel of creation. So isn't a he or a she, it goes beyond gender. So I really don't want to put a her on the womb right now, because I think it as I said in episode 12, it kind of polarizes us from our masculine nature. So the sacred womb for the moment is it, until I think of a better name. But yeah, the womb has a consciousness of its own. So this force of nature that we've come programmed with by our creator, we tend to think we can tell this force of nature when to bleed. And that just does not work. Every time I try that, my womb just kicks out that idea totally. My womb responds to requests occasionally of, say I'm traveling and I know I'm going to be flying on a day, and it happens to come when, that day is the first day of my bleed. I put my hands on my womb and say, okay, we're flying that day. I'm going to be around lots of people. The pressure is going to be different, and I don't really have that space to listen consistently and closely. Any chance we could start bleeding a day later. And every time my womb responds, it's really fantastic. So in my experience, the womb decides when to bleed. It's the womb's job. That's one of the main things that the womb does. It sheds the lining. So, as well as carrying babies, as well as birthing consciousness, as well as talking to us. So, the womb decides, our reproductive system decides when this happens. And as the womb has a consciousness of its own, I don't want to control that. I don't want to try and think that I know better than this consciousness that's encoded in my body should obey me, really. And when we take the pill and we put tampons in and we try and really attain to shoulds and shouldn'ts just because we're trying to get it right, we're just trying to get our power back, and we want that now, which is totally understandable. But in our eagerness, if we try and exert our power over our womb, then I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. That's when we start creating a reality of power over something. And yeah, I'm sure that if you're listening to this, you don't want power over you. I certainly don't want power over me. And the way to stop that and change that is change within. So that's my take on it, and I don't, most of the time, it's not perfect, but most of the time I don't try and have power over my womb. I listen, and that really works. So listening to the womb's messages and how they apply to our lives in that moment is more important than trying to subscribe to, well, if we bleed on the red moon, if we bleed on the full moon, we're this, if we do this, we bleed then. There are going to be themes that come up, and there are going to be opportunities for us to do different things when we bleed in different phases of the moon cycle. But if we try and fix this and cling to a pattern, then we're totally missing the point of the feminine aspect of nature being the unknown. And our cycle consistently teaches us about the unknown if we let it. So it's fine to have a map, it's fine to look at patterns, it's fine to look at different phases and what they might mean on the internet. But ultimately, your womb, my womb, every woman's womb has a consciousness of its own and has a unique message for that woman, for each woman at that particular moment. So can you see that if we put a layer over the top of that, of shoulds and expectations, then we really totally are going to miss the message in that moment, and we also miss the point of unknowing. That is, our cycle teaches us every single time. And to befriend the unknown, to be curious about what's coming, to be curious and listen with fresh ears about what's happening in our body, in our lives, and how that's affecting our cycle is more difficult, and it takes more time than I'm bleeding on this moon, I'm bleeding on that moon, and so it means this. Then that can become really quite rigid, which again is not the medicine of the moon, is not the medicine of our cycle. Moon medicine is change, consistent change. The magnetic pull of the moon on the earth ensures movement of water on earth and of our psyche. So, okay. So that's why it's so important to give ourselves time during our moon time to drop our usual daily things and attune to where we're at and attend to our womb and engage with the process of release and sit with that resulting emptiness. It's so important. You don't have to do anything specific at this time. Have-tos, shoulds kick them out, unsubscribe, please. They're doing us no good. But giving ourselves space when we bleed to listen and attend is, from my experience of working with myself, working with lots and lots of women, is one of the best things we can do for ourselves. It's rejuvenating, and we also get a chance to tune in to the messages. So, here's an example of what might happen. So if you're bleeding on the full moon, I call that the red moon. We can think, okay, so we started bleeding, it's full moon, slowing down, I've dropped the chores, I'm on the internet much less, I'm not working so much. I'm following my intuition, and okay, I'm bleeding on the full moon now. A few cycles ago, my periods were in tune with the new moon. What's happening? And let's look at my diet. How's that? It's okay. How much have I been working this month? Okay, I've been working a lot this month. Have I been getting enough sleep? Yeah. How's my relationship? Okay, a few things piss me off there. Need to address them. A few triggers come up. Yeah, that was quite intense this month. Okay. What else is going on? Am I moving? Am I travelling? How's my financial status? We can look at all those things because we're dropping our usual daily tasks. Our body's pulling us inwards. And we're releasing blood. Our psyche is releasing. We can do the same for any phase of the cycle, of the moon cycle. So I'm bleeding in tune with the dark moon. Wow. What's that mean for me right now? Where am I at emotionally? And what's this pull I can feel? Can I feel something? Do I feel a flat energy? Do I feel a high energy? And I'd really encourage you to record and journal and write this down, because you will see patterns over time, but they'll be your patterns coming from your womb and your cycle. And sure, there are going to be generic patterns across us collectively. But again, please don't listen to those. Please don't listen to me. Please listen to your womb. It's your wisdom, and it's in your body. And yeah, we've collectively forgotten how to access that, but there are a lot of women remembering how to do that. It's partly why I'm doing these podcasts, to share that wisdom and guidance and experience, so that you too may point your gaze towards your womb and get your own connection with your unique wisdom that you incarnated with. So to sum up, I encourage myself, you, or women to treat each cycle as a lesson in the unknown. Remain curious, as if you're meeting a friend, a long-time friend who's telling you about a new experience. Really listen with fresh ears. Pretend you haven't heard anything about synchronizing with this and being like that. Listen to your body, to your womb center. Okay. I hope that was useful for you. I'm going to talk about an exercise now to help you to unsubscribe and tune in. Sit somewhere comfortable and have a piece of paper and a pen nearby. And just start by taking a few breaths up and down the body, placing your hands on your womb, and just really feeling comfortable in your own body. And after a few minutes or longer if you wish, just follow your breath, follow an out breath, and sink into your womb center. Just be there. and ask your womb about the subscriptions that you've got. What are we subscribed to? What am I subscribed to in terms of shoulds and shouldn'ts about when I bleed? So you could write at the top of the paper, when I should and shouldn't bleed, and that really will help bring up those subscriptions. So write them all out on a piece of paper and take a look at them, and then one by one make a decision. Do I want to subscribe to this? And what I did with this part was make a mental note of it and envisage myself almost like you unsubscribe from a newsletter, making the decision and just pulling my energy back, and that doesn't turn up in my inbox again. So one by one, take a look at each subscription. If you want it, keep it, fine. If you don't want it, just unsubscribe. Take a breath. Know that you've been subscribing to these things on the paper because you were really probably trying your best to do your best to attune with your cycle, to awaken, to become empowered. And that's okay. That's fantastic. I encourage that. But check if these subscriptions are serving you or restricting you or limiting. And once you've unsubscribed to everything you no longer want to subscribe to, feel the energy that comes back to you, just your energy. Is there an increase? Is there an inflow? Because when we subscribe to something, we attach to it. We take care of it, we take notice of it, we give energy to it, our energy. And when we unsubscribe, that energy is going to ping back to us. So just breathe it all back in. And as your own energy returns to you, just have a feel where it's going in your body. And notice what happens to your womb center. So you can put your hands on your womb as you do this. And just breathe and feel and be and notice. And sit with that. And as always, check in the Sacred Womb private Facebook group. Let me know how you got on. I'm starting to do Facebook Lives in the private group, so you can also take that opportunity to ask any questions. Again, I'm going to give you answers that help you point towards and connect with your own wisdom. But sometimes it's really helpful to share your experience and to know that we're not alone in this. Okay, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it, and I really look forward to hearing how you got on with this. I really hope you enjoyed the podcast and that you got some useful tips out of it that can make a genuine difference in your daily life. And if you'd love to work deeper with this stuff, then do head on over to thesacredwomb.com, where you can sign up to receive the weekly newsletter and an invite to our private Facebook group, where you can share, learn and grow with like-minded women in a safe, supported space. Thank you so much for tuning in. Do leave us a rating, and your comments are very welcome. And I'll see you next time.